Hello everybody, this is Jonathan, and today I'll be showing you guys the basic text editor in C++. So this is meant to be a very simple tutorial for new beginners who wants to learn C++. This is a great introduction to C++ because it introduces various data types, being able to use different functions, and to be able to use a syn command and the cout command. The syn command will ask for the user input, and it will add this input into a variable. You guys should be able to use else and if statements as well to be able to do something like if option is equal to 1, then display something like testing123 or some command or some function if a user presses number 1. If the user don't press number 1, look for another number they have clicked to they've chosen. So for example, if they've chosen 2, then it should be able to subtract numbers. If the user chosen number 3 instead, then I should be able to multiply the numbers. If the user chosen 4, then it should be able to divide the numbers, else it should be able to display an error message. So I'm going to show you guys a demo of the actual code. So if I compile it, as you guys can see, I should be able to select 1, and if I select 1 and 1 again, it should be the answer should be 2. If I now go back into the application, if I do something like 4, I can now do something like 1 and a 1, and the answer should be 1 because you have to divide 1 by 1, and it's obviously going to be 1 because you're only sharing it with yourself. It's like having like one cookie and you're only sharing it with yourself, then obviously it would just be one cookie for yourself. If I now select 2 to subtract, if I now do 2 subtracted by 1, that should give the answer of 1 because you're doing 2 minus 1, and this obviously is equal to 1. Now you guys can also do multiplication by pressing onto number 3 as a key, and I press on the enter key, which will be able to enter any numbers that you guys want to use to be able to multiply. These have to be 2 numbers, so you can only add 2 numbers in. So if I do something like 2 times by 2, the answer should be 4. Simple as that. Okay, so what I'm going to do firstly, I'm going to go and create a new file. I'm going to go there, I'm going to click onto save. I'm going to go into the music directory. If I call this one basic.c++, and as you guys can see, I was able to save it. What I'm going to do firstly is going to include the library. Now this library will allow me to use the cout and use the syn command. So for example, if I do include iostream, then that should allow me to print text to the screen as well as asking for the user input. But you guys can add in many libraries as you truly want. There is WX widgets library as well. There is GTK libraries, and they're used to create graphical user interfaces. But to keep this simple, I'm going to stick with command line based calculator because it's very easy for new beginners to pick up and understand. But later on in the videos, I will start doing videos on graphical user interfaces, mostly with the GTK frameworks. So here I got include iostream. Now I can start typing down using namespace std. In a minute I will explain why this is important. Now I'm going to type down the int main command. This is actually a function. This is the main function. So this function is very important because when you boot up the program, it would read what is the main function. If we don't have the main function, it's not going to work. We need to have the main function. It has to be called main because this is what allows the application to start and to be able to start running the code. You guys can add as many functions as you truly want, but the main function is the main function, and the main code should be within the main function. So yeah, is when you start up the computer, for example, it needs to load up the BIOS, and the main is basically like the BIOS. It needs to be loaded first before it does load the other functions. So int main is like the BIOS on a computer, basically, as you guys can think of it like that. I'm going to click on to Ctrl S, and I'm going to type down cout to print out some text. and I can type down something like hello world. Hello world. Let me add an NDL, which will basically end this line. So cout is to print out some text. You guys need to add in these lines, these weird hours to the screen as well. And you guys have to write down hello world, add in this hours again, and you guys can type down NDL. If I now run the compile button, hopefully it does print out hello world. As you guys can see, yes it does. So I click onto the NV10 key to continue. I'm just going to copy this multiple times. Actually, I can go back to my older code, and now you guys can just copy paste this in, copy and paste it in. It's basically the same as you did for hello world, but instead of writing hello world, you just type down like 1, add, 2, subtract, 3, multiply, 4, divide, and so on. So it's just as simple as that. Now what I'm going to do firstly is that before I do use the syn command to ask for the user input, I need to create a new variable. Now there's many different types of data types that this variable can contain. It can contain a string, which I do believe it is just string, isn't it? Or you guys can add in a char as well, which means one single character. You guys can add an int as well, and you guys can also add in the double as well, which is basically like the like int, but allows you to add in decimal point numbers, because int only allows you to add in whole numbers, whereas double allows you to enter like double, like basically like decimal numbers as well. So for example 3.2, whereas int only allows for whole numbers, so it cannot have a decimal point in it, whereas double allows you to have a decimal point. Which I want to use int to keep this simple. I'm going to call this one int option. And now if I go back down there, I can now do syn. Make sure that the hours are facing different way than it does in cout. So for example, if I do this way, as you guys can see, then it should work, because these 2 hours should be different for syn. Okay, so now if I just do option, if I press on to Ctrl S, if I now try to compile it, hopefully it does work, and it does. I don't have any error messages, and it does display what I want to display. So I can select 1, it won't do anything, because I haven't programmed it to do anything just yet. So what we have to do in this case, we have to create an if and if else statements. So if I do if option is equal, make sure we're adding 2 equals, otherwise it's not going to work. And there's 2 curly brackets in, and now you guys should be able to start typing down any code that you guys want to type down for option is equal to 1. So when a person types down 1, then it should do something. So I'm going to go and test this out. I can call this one cout, and I can put down something like femboys. Now I can do NDL. And if I try to compile it again, if I select 1, it should now print out femboys. Okay, this is working just fine. Okay, amazing. So now I'm going to go over there. Should I hold on. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now if I do cout, enter your first number. And now if I just do something like this, NDL. Now if I create a new variable called int num1, this will be our first number. If we do int num2, this will be our second number. Actually, I want to make this double. I want to support the decimal points, because sometimes people may want to add in what 3.2 is to 6.4. So 3.2 plus 6.4, and it should still give the answer, whereas int will display an error. So let's be nice to the end user and allow them to add in decimal point numbers, shall we? Okay, cool. So now what I can now do is ask the user to input number and then save it to num1. So if I do num1, amazing. And now if I do cout, if I now do the second part of it, so if I ask for the second number, enter your second number. Okay. Now if I do NDL again, if I now do sin, if I do num2, now I will create a new variable which will be called the calculations, the calculations, and that will just do the num1 plus num2. So if I do equal to num1 plus num2, actually this needs to be a double, because we're using double as our data type, we can't use enter, it's going to display an error message. So if you use double, calculations is equal to num1 plus num2. Now what we should be able to do is now be able to display what the actual calculation is by doing this, by doing cout, and I can add in some text. The answer is, and our guys can add in the variable, because you can use cout to print out what the calculation is. You guys can call in variables and just place what the variables are within the cout. So if I just copy this one into here, and now if I do NDL to add a new line, if I try to compile it again, hopefully it works. If I select 1, if I do 2 plus 2, that should equal to 4. And yes, I was able to get working. Isn't that amazing? Now, I'm going to do an else if statement. So if number 1 is not true, if I set number 2 instead, then it should be able to start subtracting the numbers instead of adding the numbers. So if I do else if option is equal to 2, let me just copy down this code, shall I? It's going to be basically the same thing, just with the subtract sign instead. So if I just copy it, so I don't put it over here, enter your first number, then we ask for what the first number will be, what the second number will be, then we have to do the calculation, but instead of just adding them, we do subtraction. Now if I try to compile it, if I now add 2 in, wait, why did that work? I've got an error message, expected error, expected declaration. Alright, that's right. Option 2. Oh wait, no, okay, I see now. I've got this extra thing at the end. If I try to compile it again, it should not work. If I now select 2, if I enter my first number to be a 4, if I enter 2 now, then the answer should be equal to 2, as you guys can see. Okay, let's add in another else if statement, and that one will be to multiply. So if I do else if option is equal to 3, then what I should be able to do is be able to do the multiplication. So I'm just going to copy this because it's going to be the same thing really. If I now just put it over there, if I now put this one as the multiplication sign instead, if I now save it, if I now do something like that should be correct actually, because this option equals to 3. Else if, I'll get rid of that. On again? Yep, okay, cool. So now if I try to add in 3, then if I do something like 4 times by 2, that should be equal to 8. As you guys can see, it is close to 8, because if we do 4 times by 2, that is equal to 8. It's just basic maths. Okay, so now if I do divide, so if I do else if again, else if option is equal to 4, then now I should be able to copy this code down. I can just change the calculation to being divide instead. So now if I just change this one to being divide, like so, Control S, if I try to compile it, it should now work. If I do something like, if I click onto 4, if I want to divide it, if I had 32.2, if I now have like 45.6, that should give us 0.708333. So it does seem like it does work. Even though I don't know if that is correct or not, but it seems like it's correct. So I'm going to click onto the and return key to continue. I'm going to do something a little bit more simpler than just decimal points. So we'll just mostly test if the decimal points is working, and double seems to be working just fine. So if I now enter 4, if my second number is 2, then the answer will be 2. Because if there are 4 people, no, wait, yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, the answer is 2. Because we have our first number, which is a 4, and we want to divide that by 2 people, and the 2 people will be able to have like 2 of the products, because there'll be only 4 of these products, so people can only have 2 of them. So yeah, that seems right. This is basically very basic maths. If the best of the enter key, then I should just exit from here. If I now add in else, so if none of these options are true, then we want to display an error message, because we want the user to be able to add numbers up, to be able to divide the numbers, to be able to multiply numbers, and to be able to divide, subtract numbers as well. So if I now go over there, if I now do cout, if I now enter an error message, I can just be an error, please enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no, I'll just be 1, 2, 3, 4, please enter, yep. And if I do NDL, you don't have to add an NDL, but that's to add a new line, if you want to do that. So for example, I'm going to show you guys a very quick example. If I get rid of NDL, as you guys can see, then what will happen is that if I click onto the compile button, that's very important. What number was it? It was number 3, wasn't it? So if I do something like this, actually, which one did I got rid of the NDL with? Hold on. I'll just do this one for the first one. If I get rid of NDL for this one, okay. When I try to compile it again, if I select 1, as you guys can see, it'll be on the same line. So whatever, so if I don't add in NDL, then the next command or the next string that we're going to add to it will be on the same line. If I don't want it to be on the same line, you have to add NDL, and that should add a new line for the next time that we're going to use sin or cout. So if I do NDL, then that should mean that it should be on the next line for the next sin or cout. As you guys can see, it is on the new line. Amazing. You guys can also do functions if you truly wanted to. So right now I'm using for int main function, because it's like the BIOS of the computer. It will be the first thing that C++ will look for and will be using. If I now do int, actually I want to do void is better. Void is allows you to basically do a function without having to return anything, whereas with int you have to return something. But I'll go through that in a future episode. I just want to keep this simple. I just want to show you guys that we can just put stuff into different functions if you really wanted to do that, instead of just having everything like so. This will allow you to actually program a lot more efficiently, and you guys can look for a block of code that we're currently having issues with, and it should be labeled up, and it should be a block of code, and you guys should be able to update it. Now this will be a very simple function, by the way. So if I call this one void, if I call this one adding, right? Now I guys can just copy this code right over there, copy this one, and I can put it over there, right? And now I can call in these 2 variables, copy this one, and if I add it up here, this should now work, right? Yes, it does work. Amazing. So now if I try to get rid of all of this, no, I don't need to get rid of this, this is of course an error. I need to get rid of the options 1. And now if I want to call in the function, all I need to do is do the adding. Make sure I add in this, these 2 curly brackets as well. Now go and click onto the compile button, and hopefully if we start it up, it should be able to use this function. As you guys can see, it does use this function. So you guys can use functions as well to be able to organize the code, and to be able to keep some block of code in separate areas, instead of just being in the main function all the time. So now I can put down something like 12, and I can do 12 again, and the answer is 24, because if you do 12 plus 12, the answer is going to be 24. Pretty cool. So let me just do a very quick research. C++ strings. So to use a string, yes, it is string, isn't it? Yeah, I got this one right. I don't know why it just didn't show up as anything, but if I try to do string, my name equals to John. If I now do cout, if I go over there, if I call in the my name, it should now be able to use this string, right? Num1. And I need to end that one. Okay, I need to add in this selling column as well, because this is what I add the command. If I don't add it in, it's going to cause some problems. This is a string, so I might need to add this thing to it. Yeah, it was able to do so. If I now compile it, and I should say hello world Johns, so the guys can add in strings if we really want to as well, which basically means text to the screen. Yes, so we got it right the first time. It wasn't labeled as blue, so I just thought I made an issue, but it seems to be working fine. So you guys can just use string, and that should just add a text variable to the actual program. Anyway guys, this is the end of this video. If you guys like this video, please put a like and please subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.